Imagine you're taking a math expert interview. You just perfectly solve this really complex probability matrix in your head.
Right.
You smile, you confidently look into the webcam, and you deliver the final numerically correct answer. And then the AI interviewer immediately fails you.
Yeah. It's a harsh reality.
It really is. Treating these modern automated assessments like, a high school pass or fail math test where you just slide a piece of paper across the desk with a circled number that is basically the fastest way to get rejected.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a wake-up call for a lot of incredibly smart people. You go into this situation assuming the goal is to just, be a human calculator.
Right, because it's math.
Exactly. But in these specific types of expert interviews, arriving at the correct number is, it's barely half the battle. Explaining your thinking process clearly, step by step, matters just as much. Honestly, sometimes it matters significantly more than the final number you just shout out.
Which, that feels incredibly unfair at first glance, right? Mathematics is a highly objective field. The bridge stays up or the bridge falls down.
Yeah, true.
If my math is flawless, why does the interviewer, especially, an automated AI interviewer, why do they care how I got there?
Well, think about what happens when things get really complicated in the real world. A correct answer can sometimes just be a lucky accident.
Oh, like you just guessed right.
Right. Or it might rely on a flawed assumption that just happened to work out in one very specific scenario. When you jump straight from raw data to a final number without explaining the cause and effect that got you there, you create what we call a logic gap.
A logic gap.
Okay.
Meaning I got from step A to step C, but I completely failed to prove that I even know step B exists.
That is a great way to put it. An employer or the automated system evaluating you for them, they need a process that is rock solid under intense uncertainty.
They can't just trust your gut.
Exactly. They cannot rely on you magically arriving at the correct number using some hidden intuition. They need a repeatable, defensible method. They basically want to see if your problem-solving structure can be scaled across an entire team.
So let's talk about the AI evaluator itself, because the landscape of hiring is shifting so rapidly toward these platforms.
It really is.
If I'm staring at a webcam and there's no human sitting there nodding along to my explanation, how does a computer actually evaluate my logic?
It relies on a technology called chain of thought processing.
Okay.
So these automated systems transcribe your spoken words into text in real time. Then the underlying language model maps out a continuous logical path. It's not just like scanning your paragraph for the number 12 at the very end.
Wait, so what is it actually standing for? Is it just looking for specific math vocabulary? Like if I say hypotenuse enough times?
No, it's analyzing your syntactical transitions.
Syntactical transitions.
Yeah. The system is actively listening for structural words. Things like because, therefore assuming, and however.
Oh, I see.
Those words act as joints that connect your ideas. It wants to see if you clearly identify the problem first. Did you propose a realistic method to solve it? And, did you explain why that method makes sense before you even started crunching numbers?
That brings up a genuinely terrifying physical reality.
What's that?
Well, when most of us do complex calculations, we go completely silent.
Oh, yeah. That is a huge issue.
Right. Like we stare up at the ceiling, we furrow our brows, and we just think quietly. If I'm sitting in a quiet room doing mental math, how does the AI interpret that silence versus, a mapped out process?
It interprets silence as failure.
Wow. Just outright failure.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the absolute biggest trap candidates fall into with automated platforms. These systems use voice activity detection to manage the flow of the conversation. Think of it like those motion sensor lights in an office building.
Oh, I hate those. If you sit perfectly still at your desk while you're reading, the room just goes pitch black.
Yes. And to get the light back on, you have to wave your arms around wildly.
Right.
In an automated interview, sitting in silence while doing mental math is like sitting completely still in that room. The AI assumes you're stuck, or it thinks you've finished speaking, and it might just cut you off and move to the next question. You have to essentially wave your arms verbally.
But how do I do that without sounding crazy? I can't just babble random words while I'm trying to hold complex equations in my head.
You use what's called the speak-to-pause method.
Speak to pause.
Yeah. You literally narrate your hesitation. If you need a moment to process, you say out loud, "Let me structure my approach for a moment," or "I'm taking a few seconds to review the constraints of this equation."
Oh, that makes sense.
By doing that, you keep the microphone active. You tell the system exactly what you're doing, which actually demonstrates a highly organized, methodical approach to your work.
That actually sounds like a relief. It turns a moment of panic into like a display of control. But taking that a step further, what if I start down a path, narrating my thoughts, and suddenly realize I made a mistake? Does course correcting out loud penalize me? Like, does the AI think I'm dumb?
Not at all. Catching your own error and verbally course correcting is actually one of the strongest signals of competence you can send.
Wait, really?
Yeah. If you say, wait, assuming this variable leads to a contradiction, so I need to adjust my approach, you prove to the system that your logic has an internal validation mechanism.
You're checking your own work in real time.
Right. You're not just blindly following a memorized script. You are actively thinking.
Okay, so let's make this really practical. Say I'm facing an AI, and it asks me a classic logic puzzle, like the old scenario where you have to measure exactly 4 liters of water.
Yes. The jug problem.
Right. You have a 5-liter jug and a 3-liter jug. My natural instinct is to just solve it quietly in my head and blurt out 4. How do I structure that response so the AI actually gives me credit?
Okay, so you have to establish the environment first. You start by stating the constraints out loud.
How so?
You would say, I have a 5-liter and a 3-liter capacity. I cannot estimate the volume. I have to use the maximum capacities to isolate the exact amounts.
So I'm essentially building the box before I start playing inside it.
You hit the mark exactly. Then you manage your imaginary workspace step by step. You narrate filling the 5-liter jug.
Okay, so I say I'm filling the 5-liter jug.
Yes. Then you explain pouring it into the 3-liter jug until it's full. And you specifically point out that this leaves exactly 2 liters in the 5-liter jug.
Got it.
Then you state that you are dumping the 3-liter jug completely empty.
Which leaves me with 2 liters in the big jug and an empty small jug.
Right. So you narrate moving those remaining 2 liters over into the 3-liter jug.
Hold on, let me push back on that for a second.
Sure.
Isn't that incredibly tedious? Walking through every single pour and measurement out loud feels, I don't know, exhausting. A human interviewer would nod along and probably jump in and say, okay, I see where you're going with this.
They would. But a human gives you the benefit of the doubt. An AI system does not read between the lines. It requires you to draw the lines yourself.
Wow.
Every transition must be stated explicitly. If you skip a step, the AI registers a missing link in your logic. You have to communicate the exact state of both jugs at every single phase.
So I have to be like, now this jug is empty and now this jug holds 2 liters.
Exactly. You then say, I fill the 5-liter jug completely again, and then I pour water from the 5-liter jug into the 3-liter jug.
And since the 3-liter jug already has 2 liters in it, it only takes 1 liter to fill it up.
Perfect. Which leaves exactly 4 liters in the 5-liter jug. And you state that final state out loud.
Okay, so the AI isn't really grading my math in that scenario. It's grading my state tracking.
Yes.
It wants to see if I can hold the current reality of the problem in my memory and then communicate it clearly before taking the next action.
That is the perfect way to summarize it. State tracking is a fundamental skill for any engineer or quantitative analyst. Holding variables in your memory and declaring them out loud, it mirrors good coding practices.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
By speaking every transition out loud, you leave no logic gaps for the algorithm to guess at.
But if the system is transcribing my logic so closely, what actually triggers a follow-up question? Like, is the AI just looking for keywords, or is it actively trying to catch me making a mistake?
The system is an incredibly focused, active listener. If you give a vague answer, or if you skip one of those crucial logical steps we just talked about, the system will instantly dig deep.
Then it calls you out.
Basically, yeah. It's programmed to test the boundaries of your knowledge. If you mention using a specific model, it will immediately ask you to justify why you chose that model over an alternative.
It demands the evidence for your claims. Okay, well, logic puzzles with jugs of water are one thing. But if you're applying for a serious quantitative role, some questions require heavy, complex mathematical analysis. Let's look at something a bit more intimidating.
Sounds good. Let's hear it.
Say the AI asks, what is the probability of getting exactly 50 heads if you toss a coin 100 times?
Ah, that is a classic binomial probability problem.
And the visceral panic sets in immediately for the candidate. Because staring at that blinking red recording dot, my brain instantly thinks, oh my gosh, I have to calculate 100 factorial in my head, and then I just freeze completely.
And that freeze is exactly what happens when you treat the interview like a pure arithmetic test, rather than a test of mathematical judgment.
Mathematical judgment. Unpack that for me. How does judgment save me from having to calculate massive numbers in my head?
Well, let's break down the thought process you would narrate. First, you identify the method out loud. You state, we are looking for exactly 50 successes out of 100 independent trials, with the probability being 0.5. And then you say, the exact way to solve this is using the binomial formula.
Okay, so I showed my textbook knowledge. I proved I know the formula, but then I still have to calculate 100 choose 50.
And this is where your judgment comes in. You do not try to calculate it.
Really?
Really. Instead, you point out the practical pitfall. You tell the system that calculating 100 factorial by hand is impossible in a timed setting. More importantly, you explain that attempting to compute it naively in a basic computer program is actually dangerous.
Dangerous how? Like it breaks the computer.
Literally, yes. It causes what's called an integer overflow error.
Okay, I need a quick computer science detour here. What actually is an integer overflow?
Okay, think of a computer's memory like the physical odometer on a really old car.
Okay, the mileage tracker?
Right. The odometer only has a set number of spinning plastic dials. If you drive past 999,000 miles, the dials run out of space.
Oh, and they click back around to all zeros.
Exactly. They basically break the mileage count. Well, a computer storing numbers works the exact same way.
That makes total sense.
100 factorial is a number so massive it runs out of digital dials.
Yeah.
The computer cannot hold a number that large in a standard integer format, so it overflows and just returns garbage data.
So trying to do the pure textbook math actually proves you don't know how to code it safely in the real world?
Yes. And on the flip side of that equation, calculating 0.5 to the power of 100 creates an underflow error.
An underflow error, so it's too small.
Right. The resulting number is so infinitesimally small, the computer just gives up and rounds it down to 0. So the professional approach is to state these limitations out loud and then propose a mathematical workaround.
Okay, so what is the workaround for the coin toss?
You use the normal approximation to the binomial distribution.
Wait, let me challenge that. If I use an approximation, doesn't the AI dock points for not giving the exact mathematical answer? Like, isn't an approximation technically wrong?
That's a very common fear, but the answer is no. In professional applied mathematics, an approximation is not a random guess. It is a rigorously proven tool.
Okay.
We can use it safely here because the number of trials, 100, is large, and the probability, 0.5, is perfectly balanced in the middle.
I need to understand why that works, though. Why does tossing a coin 100 times allow me to just abandon the original formula and use a different one?
Think about the geometry of the math. If you toss a coin just 10 times and graph the probabilities of getting each number of heads, the graph looks like a series of jagged, chunky steps.
Okay.
It's very blocky.
Like a low-resolution 8-bit video game graphic.
Exactly like that. But as you increase the number of coin tosses to 100 or 1,000, those jagged steps smooth out. They merge together into a perfectly smooth, continuous bell curve.
Oh, I see. And the normal approximation is just the formula for that smooth bell curve.
You got it. By proving to the AI that you understand how a jagged, discrete distribution smooths out into a continuous bell curve at large numbers, you show deep practical understanding.
That's amazing.
You're essentially saying to the AI, I know the textbook formula, but I also know why the textbook formula will break our servers, so here is the mathematically elegant cheat code to get the answer safely.
That is such a powerful way to frame it. You're stepping out of the role of a panicked test taker, and you're stepping into the role of a senior engineer explaining a design choice to a colleague.
And notice how throughout that entire explanation, you're constantly narrating your choices. You don't just jump to the normal approximation in silence. You explain why the first method was flawed, which builds that continuous chain of thought the system is desperately looking for.
Bringing all these strategies together, if you are gearing up for a Micro1 style math interview or really any automated technical screen, the core lesson here is that the goal is not flawless mental arithmetic.
The goal is total transparency. The system wants to look inside your brain while you work. Speak clearly. Organize your steps out loud using those syntactical joints like because and therefore. And do not be afraid to say, I need a moment to evaluate my options, just to keep the microphone active.
You really have to paint the entire picture with your words. Every constraint, every assumption, every transition, and every pivot.
Right.
If you make a mistake, don't hide it. Verbally course-correcting shows maturity. By providing a clear, articulated chain of thought, you give the algorithm exactly what it needs to recognize your expertise.
It's a major shift in mindset. You aren't just solving a puzzle, you're documenting your journey to the solution in real time, using clear, simple language. Treat the automated platform just like a colleague who cannot see your scratch pad.
And that leads to a really fascinating thought to take with you today. Preparing for an automated interview like this can easily feel like jumping through rigid, mechanical hoops. It feels like a chore just to appease a computer.
It definitely feels unnatural at first. Forcing yourself to articulate things that feel incredibly obvious to you takes a lot of mental energy.
It really does, but think about what you are actually practicing when you prepare for this format. You're stripping away all your vague filler language. You're forcing your brain to organize scattered thoughts into a pure, undeniable, step-by-step logical sequence.
Absolutely, you are actively eliminating your own logic gaps.
Exactly. You are learning how to be perfectly, undeniably understood. And while you're doing all this rigorous preparation just to explain math to a machine, organizing your brain to speak with that level of pure logic might actually be the exact training you need to become a vastly sharper, more effective human communicator in your everyday life.
I couldn't agree more.
It turns out the best way to prove your intelligence to an algorithm is to become a clearer, more intentional human.